What if everything we discussed in Part 1 was only the beginning of something far bigger, far more complex, and far more unsettling than most people realize? What if the little horn is not just an individual figure rising in isolation, but part of a larger system that is already forming quietly in the background of global events? In this second part, we go deeper beyond the vision itself, beyond the symbols, into the unfolding structure of what many believe is the final prophetic system described in the book of Daniel and Revelation, a system that does not rise in a single moment, but gradually, subtly, almost unnoticed until it is fully established. The book of Daniel continues to reveal details that are not immediately obvious on the surface. In Daniel 7, after describing the beasts and the little horn, the vision shifts toward a courtroom scene where divine judgment is being prepared. Daniel sees thrones being set in place and the Ancient of Days taking his seat. Daniel 7:9-10 says, "As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, the court was seated, and the books were opened." This is not symbolic confusion, it is structured judgment. Everything in history is being evaluated, and every rising power is under divine review. But before that judgment is executed, something must unfold on earth. The little horn does not rise randomly. It emerges from a system already established. Daniel 7-8 says, "While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them." This phrase, "among them," is critical. It suggests that the little horn does not come from outside the system, it rises from within it. It is part of the structure before it becomes dominant over it. This is why many scholars see this prophecy not only as a future individual, but as a combination of political, economic, and spiritual systems converging into one final expression of authority. As the vision continues, Daniel describes how this little horn removes 3 other horns. Daniel 7-8 says 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This suggests a transfer of power, a consolidation of authority, where existing systems or leaders are displaced to make way for something new. This is not chaotic destruction, it is controlled replacement. One power rising while others fall, creating space for a centralized authority to take shape. Then comes the defining characteristic of this rising power, its speech. Daniel 7-8 continues, "This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully." This detail reveals something deeper than political control. It reveals influence, communication, ideology, the power of words. This system does not only rule through force, it rules through persuasion, through narratives, through global influence that shapes how people think, what they believe, and how they respond to truth. This becomes even clearer in Daniel 7:25, which says he will speak against the Most High and oppress His holy people and try to change the set times and the laws. This reveals an attempt not only to control people, but to redefine reality itself, laws, times, systems, and moral boundaries. This is where prophecy begins to feel less distant and more relevant to modern discussions about global systems, shifting values, and centralized influence across nations. But Daniel is not the only one who describes this figure. The Apostle Paul expands the vision in 2 Thessalonians 2-3-4, saying, "Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God." This passage adds another layer: deception. The system is not only powerful, it is persuasive. It does not immediately appear as evil. It rises in the context of rebellion, confusion, and gradual shift in truth. And this is where the tension increases. Because deception does not announce itself. It grows, it spreads. It becomes accepted before it is recognized. Daniel 8:25 warns he will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many. This verse reveals a critical pattern: security before destruction, confidence before collapse, trust before betrayal. The danger is not an obvious threat, it is hidden transformation. As we go deeper into this prophecy, we begin to see how the little horn is connected to a larger prophetic structure. In Daniel 7, the fourth beast represents a global system with 10 horns. These horns represent multiple powers working together, but the little horn rises among them, suggesting that it is not separate from the system, it is the final expression of it. It emerges after the system is already in place. It does not build from nothing, it takes control of what already exists. This is why many interpret this prophecy as pointing toward a global consolidation of authority in the last days, not necessarily through one sudden event, but through gradual alignment of systems, alliances, and influence. Daniel 7:23 describes, "The fourth beast as a fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it." This is global in scope, not localized, not regional, worldwide in influence. And within that global structure, the little horn rises. But the most shocking part of the vision is not just its rise, it is its opposition too. God, Daniel 8:11 says, "It set itself up to be as great as the commander of the army of the Lord." This is not just political ambition. This is spiritual rebellion. It challenges divine authority. It elevates itself above worship, above truth, above established order. This is why it becomes so significant in prophetic interpretation. It represents the ultimate conflict between human authority and divine authority. Yet even in this rise, there is limitation. Daniel 7:26 says, "But the court will sit, and his power will be taken away and completely destroyed forever." This is the final boundary. No matter how strong the system becomes, no matter how influential the little horn appears, it is not permanent. It is temporary. It is judged. It is removed. And this leads to the final contrast. Daniel 7:27 says, "Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the holy people of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom." This is the conclusion of the vision. Not endless human rule, not endless deception, but restoration, a kingdom that cannot be shaken. But before that conclusion arrives, the tension remains in the middle. A system rising, a voice speaking, a power expanding, a deception spreading, and people must decide whether they will recognize it or be drawn into it. This is why the message of the little horn is not just about identifying a future figure, it is about awareness in the present. Jesus warned in Matthew 24:24 that says, "For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect." The danger is not just power, it is appearance. Not just authority, it is deception that feels convincing. And so the question becomes more personal. Not just who the little horn is in prophecy, but how we respond to truth in our own lives. Are we able to discern what is right when deception becomes subtle? Are we grounded enough to recognize truth when it is challenged? Are we aware enough to see beyond appearances? Because the prophecy is not only about the future, it is about preparation. It is a warning that truth will be tested, that systems will shift, that voices will rise, and that discernment will be necessary more than ever. And through it all, one truth remains constant. No matter how powerful any system becomes, no matter how persuasive any voice is, no matter how strong any ruler appears, the final authority belongs to God, and in the end, every kingdom that rises against him will fall. If this message helped you understand prophecy on a deeper level, make sure you subscribe now, because in Part 3 we will go even deeper into the final system, the connection to Revelation, and what the Bible reveals about the end of this prophetic timeline. Stay alert, stay grounded in truth, and I'll see you in the next one.